Okay, dear students, good evening. Sorry for getting slightly late today. Today, my students, I have not brought you the multiple choice questions because yesterday my syllabus had not progressed so much so I can find out some standard question for you people. So today, let us proceed further in the topic of nationalism, and I think I will just try to cover up to the Great Revolt of 1857. Then I will be in a position to do the questions on prelims and mains both, because in prelims part of the questions you are performing very well. So I hope given the mains part you have to be equally efficient. My students, आप लोग prelims में बहुत अच्छा परफॉर्मेंस कर रहे हो और मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि मेंस में भी आपका परफॉर्मेंस उतना ही अच्छा होना चाहिए। तो आज मैं पहले जो प्रोटो नेशनलिस्ट मूवमेंट है, जिसको आद्य राष्ट्रवादी हिंदी में बोलते हैं, I will just cover that area, and after that then I have to move modern nationalism next day, not today. Today even the topic of 1857, the Great Revolt of 1857, would not be covered in complete form. Partially we will do this topic today. So let us start now. I think, my students, the part of modern nationalism may be clear for you people. I am just moving to this point, this aspect, this one. We are supposed to follow a diagram first, because diagram is very eye-opener for we people. Here I am making you clear what is the motive and what is the objective of this diagram. Just let us do here. Look, my students. Here you will find the topic like rise of nationalism. So that is rise of nationalism, okay? In rise of nationalism, gradually and case by case you have to proceed. Once again, I am just reminding you, we have not to cover any single one topic separately. We have to just cover the topic as an organic whole. हमें कोई भी टॉपिक अकेला टॉपिक को नहीं करना है, हमें टॉपिक को इंटीग्रेटेड करना है, एक दूसरे से जोड़ कर करना है, तब हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग कहीं बेहतर होगी। क्योंकि मैंने आपको पहले क्लास में कहा है कि आपको एक इंफॉर्मेशन से ओपिनियन की तरफ बढ़ना पड़ेगा। मतलब यू आर सपोज टू मूव फ्रॉम द स्टेटस ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन गैदरर टू द स्टेटस ऑफ अ क्रिटिकल थिंकर. So that is possible only then if you are going to observe the different topics in an integrated manner. So my students, you may recall that whenever I have covered the topic like the previous topics, so for the sake of convenience, we have divided modern history in 4 parts. The first part is the history of 18th century. The second one part is the history of, even the history of 18th century should be divided into 2 subparts, that is first half of 18th century and the second half of 18th century. मतलब हमने पहले 18वीं सदी का इतिहास कवर किया, उसको भी 2 भागों में बांटा, 18वीं सदी का पूर्वार्ध और 18वीं सदी का उत्तरार्ध. Then we have covered the topic like colonialism. Colonialism means उपनिवेशवाद, and here also we have to divided this major part into 3 subparts. The first subpart is the mercantile phase of colonialism, industrial phase, and the second subpart industrial phase of colonialism, and third subpart the फाइनेंशियल फेज ऑफ कॉलोनियलिज्म. मतलब पहला हम लोगों का था उपनिवेशवाद का वाणिज्यिक चरण, उपनिवेशवाद का औद्योगिक चरण, उपनिवेशवाद का वित्तीय चरण. एंड इन एवरी पार्ट वी हैव जस्ट ट्राइड टू एक्सप्लेन द चेंज थ्रू द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ कॉलोनियलिज्म. कि कॉलोनियलिज्म इज बेसिकली एन इकोनॉमिक रिलेशन, but it was going to affect the political, social and cultural structure as well. It is on the basis of this formula we have proceeded in this topic, we know, and we have successfully covered the part of colonialism. Today can I expect you people are having the expertise over the topic on colonialism. अब आप लोगों से मैं उम्मीद कर सकता हूं कि आप लोग उपनिवेशवाद को अच्छे ढंग से समझ गए होंगे, क्योंकि हमने उपनिवेशवाद के सारे पार्ट को एक दूसरे से जोड़कर आपको बताया कैसे औपनिवेशिक हित राजनीतिक सामाजिक और राजनीतिक प्रशासनिक सामाजिक सांस्कृतिक हित सभी को दिशा देता है, मैंने आपको क्लियर किया। अब वी हैव मूव टू नेशनलिज्म, सो वी हैव स्टार्टेड द डेवलपमेंट फ्रॉम you can say that we have started our story from Europe. How did the model of nationalism appear and emerge in Europe? Even European rise of, or you can say growth of nationalism in Europe can be divided into two phases. The first phase, that is the phase of nation state or the nationalism of monarchs, and the second phase, the nationalism of the people, which is characterized as the modern nationalism today. तो मैंने आपको बताया कि कैसे पहले फर्स्ट फेज में मोनार्क का नेशनलिज्म था, एक राजा का राष्ट्रवाद था, फिर बाद में जनता का राष्ट्रवाद आया जिसको आप मॉडर्न नेशनलिज्म कहते हैं। देन आई हैव आल्सो डिस्कस विथ यू पीपल कि हाउ वाज द मॉडल ऑफ नेशनलिज्म इन यूरोप वाज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम दैट इन ए कॉलोनी और इंडिया, एंड व्हाट वाज द प्रोसेस ऑफ डिफरेंस बिटवीन द राइज ऑफ द यूरोपियन मॉडल ऑफ नेशनलिज्म एंड द इंडियन मॉडल ऑफ नेशनलिज्म। तो here also you find in the two different stages. The first stage is the reaction against the British colonial exploitation and it took the form of proto-nationalism. मतलब कि जो भारत में उपनिवेशवाद का विकास हुआ वो ब्रिटिश औपनिवेशिक शोषण के विरुद्ध प्रतिक्रिया के रूप में हुआ, रिएक्शन के रूप में हुआ, और इसको हम लोगों ने प्रोटो नेशनलिज्म का नाम दिया, आद्य ऐतिहासिक, नॉट कंप्लीट नेशनलिज्म। But during the second phase up to the end of 19th century, when as the result of the English education, the Western ideas started to influence the Indian psyche, so there was the rise of modern nationalism. So this is the second one phase. We have discussed about that. Yesterday I have left one thing, so that may perturb you. So let me make this point clear. This aspect I will just question, can we state that the rise of nationalism in India was contribution of British rule? I have just left this point yesterday, and I have inquired from you people and you have responded in a very positive manner. I have asked you the question, do you believe that if British could not have and would not have come to India, then India could not have manifested the state of nationalism? You people replied ki no. It is not possible. Even without the British, nationalism could emerge in India. So here I have tried to, in brief, to answer your point of view. Though the British encouraged factors which played a significant role in the growth of nationalism in India, still we cannot attribute the growth of modern nationalism in India to the British alone. We cannot give the credit for the rise of nationalism in India to British alone. मतलब यहाँ पर आपको बताया गया है कि यह सही है कि ब्रिटिश ने भारत में राष्ट्रवाद के विकास में कुछ महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दिया। 5 फैक्टर्स तो कल हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था, आपको याद होगा। लेकिन ऐसा हम नहीं कह सकते कि ब्रिटिश अगर नहीं आए होते तो भारत में राष्ट्रवाद नहीं होता। तो आई हैव जस्ट दिस स्टेटमेंट, दिस सेंटेंस इज मेकिंग दिस पॉइंट क्लियर। फॉर दिस फॉलोइंग रीजन्स आर रेस्पॉन्सिबल, और मतलब for these following regions are responsible, मतलब for this the following regions are accountable. Point 1, since the ancient past the concept of Jambu Dwipa has persisted in India, which was an expression of India as a geographical unit. Yesterday I have discussed this aspect. From the ancient period onwards in India, you can say there is the concept of the Jambu Dwipa. Jambu Dwipa means the whole of Indian subcontinent was supposed to be a single geographical unit. So we are having a sense of, you can say, geographical, you can say we are having a sense of a common geographical territory or common territory right from the ancient period onwards. मतलब प्राचीन काल से एक जम्बू द्वीप की अवधारणा है जो भारतीय उपमहाद्वीप की तरफ इशारा करता है। एंड द सेकेंड वन पॉइंट इज, एज द कैम्ब्रिज स्कॉलर क्रिस्टोफर बाइली ऑल्सो हैज राइटली पॉइंटेड दैट पैट्रियोटिज्म, इफेक्टिव गवर्नमेंट एंड मेनी सच एलिमेंट्स हैव परसिस्टेड इन इंडिया, यू कैन से, सिंस द एंशिएंट पास्ट। मतलब जो कैम्ब्रिज स्कॉलर है क्रिस्टोफर बाइली, वो ये बोलता है कि जो देशभक्ति है वो देशभक्ति एंशिएंट टाइम से ही हमारे यहाँ, पैट्रियोटिज्म मीन्स देशभक्ति, So that exists in India right from the ancient period. There is also a concept of the good government, you can say. Chakravarti ruler. Chakravarti ruler was that ruler who could have the control over the whole of Jambu Dvipa. So that is projected as the Chakravarti ruler. And right from the time of the Maurya rule, and in Kautilyan Arthashastra for the first time mentioned about the Chakravarti ruler in India. Chakravarti ruler was that who ruled on the whole of the subcontinents at the same time. मतलब चक्रवर्ती शासक वो है जो संपूर्ण भारतीय उपमहाद्वीप पर एक साथ शासन करता हो. That was an ideal type. Ideal type. For example, you can say in your paper, you can say stated marks is 250. So that is an ideal, not reality, because no student will ever get the 250 out of 250 marks. So Chakravarti ruler was simply an ideal of society. It was not reality. चक्रवर्ती शासक एक आदर्श था, यथार्थ नहीं था. सिर्फ वह एक आदर्श के रूप में स्थापित था कि जो भी शासक एक मतलब विजेता होता था, जो कंकरर होता था, वो चक्रवर्ती का एक आदर्श लेकर अपने पोजीशन को एक तरह से अपग्रेड करने की कोशिश करता था. इनफैक्ट चक्रवर्ती वाज सिंपली एन आइडियल टाइप. इट वाज नॉट द रियलिटी ऑफ सोसाइटी. No ruler ever ruled over the whole of Jambu Dvipa, but they have just projected it as a major ideal. So there may be some elements of nationalism even before the advent of the British. Apart from that, if you people like, you can give a reference to even the cultural revolution, like you can say a major cultural or the largest cultural revolution like Bhakti movement, which spread from Kashmir to Tamil Nadu and Gujarat to Bengal. I have given a reference yesterday. So many examples, and on that basis you can say, even if the British would not have come to India, India might have manifested the stage of nationalism. और ब्रिटिश नहीं भी आए होते तो अभी हमारे यहाँ राष्ट्रवाद होता. तो कल तो आप लोगों ने, मैक्सिमम बच्चों ने नो कहा था, एंड आई एग्री विद द स्टेटमेंट. मतलब आप लोग इस टेक्निकलिटीज को समझ रहे हो, इसमें यस कहना उचित नहीं है. अब ग्रोथ ऑफ नेशनलिज्म में आई एम मेकिंग यू क्लियर कि व्हाट इज दिस पॉइंट. अब देखो, राइज ऑफ नेशनलिज्म में है, इसको हमने फर्स्ट स्टेज में, बिकॉज whenever I will teach you, the first here I am making you proto nationalist resistance. Here you find restorative revolts. Tribal revolts and resistance. Tribal revolts and resistance. And third, peasant revolts and movement. That is the one factor. Then the first war of independence. And that is The Great Revolt of 1857. The Great Revolt of 1857. Modern nationalism. Modern nationalism. Religious reforms movement of 19th century. 19th century. My students, here I am making clear, all are integrated. Firstly, the story will start with the British rule created pressure over the different social classes. And these classes reacted against the British rule in their own respective way. For example, the British rule replaced some old Rajas and Nawabs, any kings and Nawabs. So they organized a revolt against the British Raj, not British Raj, Company's Raj or Company's government. It was known as the restorative movement, It was known as restorative movement or restorative revolts, Once the kings revolted, kings and Nawabs or even landlords revolted, so even their subject people or the peasants, because in fact the Jamindar and the peasants both were having the love-hate relation, because on the one hand the Jamindars were exploiting the peasants, but on the other hand the peasants were taking Jamindars as their mai-baap. So my students, here my point is that the British rule created the pressure over the different social classes, the old kings, Nawabs and landlords, the tribal people, and also on the peasants, So initially what revolts and movements took place and occurred, so they were known as the proto-nationalist revolts or movements. जो शुरू में जो मूवमेंट पैदा हुए, उन मूवमेंट को हम कहते हैं प्रोटो नेशनलिस्ट. प्रोटो नेशनलिस्ट का मतलब हुआ आद्य राष्ट्रवादी. मतलब ब्रिटिश शासन ने भारत के विभिन्न वर्गों पर अलग अलग प्रभाव छोड़ा. राजाओं और नवाबों पर प्रभाव छोड़ा, जमींदारों पर प्रभाव छोड़ा. उनके शासन का अंत किया तो दोबारा अपने शासन की स्थापना के लिए मूवमेंट करने लगे, आंदोलन आरंभ करने लगे. तो कहलाया रिस्टोरेटिव. दूसरी तरफ जनजातीय लोगों को दबाया, उन्होंने रिवोल्ट किया, दैट वाज कॉल्ड ट्राइबल रिवोल्ट्स. किसानों के ऊपर दबाव डाला तो उन्होंने रिवोल्ट किया, तो दैट इज कॉल्ड पीजेंट रिवोल्ट्स, So all of the three were categorized under proto-nationalist. Why? I will discuss with you later. Why proto-nationalist? Then at least the Great Revolt of 1857 was not the reflection of modern nationalism, because the support of the modern ideology was missing there. जैसे 1857 के विद्रोह को हम कोई आधुनिक विद्रोह तो नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि उसमें आधुनिकता का तत्व, यानी आप कह सकते हो कि मॉडर्निटी विचारधारा की भूमिका मिसिंग है, नहीं है. लेकिन हाँ, इट इज ट्रू कि इट इज मच लार्जर देन दिस स्ट्री रिवोल्ट्स एंड मूवमेंट्स, एंड इट वाज इन वन सेंस द कलेक्टिव रिएक्शन ऑफ द डिफरेंट क्लासेस ऑफ इंडिया. So now it came to be characterized as the first war of independence. अब इसको भारत का स्वतंत्रता संग्राम के रूप में स्वीकृति मिलने लगी है 2007 के बाद. So I will discuss this aspect with you. This one, modern nationalism, the first reflection of modern nationalism is the socio-religious reform movement of 19th century, which I will discuss with you, that is known as Indian Renaissance. तो my students, you will be crystal clear. मतलब ये जो है आधुनिक राष्ट्रवाद की पहली अभिव्यक्ति 19वीं सदी का समाज एवं धर्म सुधार आंदोलन बना, जिसको भारतीय पुनर्जागरण भी कहा जाता है. अब आफ्टर फिनिशिंग ऑल दिस थ्री, दैट विल टेक टाइम, एटलीस्ट यू कैन से up to Monday, you can say this area could be covered the whole, and after that then I will move to other direction. Other direction means here I have to discuss with you. We have to move to other direction from social response movement to political movement, and then there will start the topic like Indian National Congress. So foundation of Indian National Congress, and after that you will divide the whole of the national movement in different subparts. And different subparts, so one unique thing or a unique work you people will do, whenever we will start to observe the, you can say, growth of national, you can say progress of national movement from 1885 onwards with the foundation of Indian National Congress. We will talk about the two different and parallel direction. One direction is the growth of nationalism, another direction of the growth of communalism. मतलब मैं आपको बताता हूं, यहां तक मैं फिनिश करने के बाद फिर मैं धार्मिक आंदोलन से राजनीतिक आंदोलन की तरफ चला आऊंगा, फिर भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस की स्थापना को डील करूंगा, और फिर भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस की स्थापना के बाद तब हम पूरे नेशनल मूवमेंट 1947 तक आपको डिफरेंट पार्ट्स में डिवाइड करेंगे, और प्रत्येक पार्ट में एक धारा होगी राष्ट्रवाद की और दूसरी धारा होगी संप्रदायवाद की. दैट इज कॉल्ड कम्युनलिज्म एंड नेशनलिज्म. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल माई स्टूडेंट्स, the first part would be the Indian National Movement from 1885 to 1907. 1885 to 1907. One direction nationalism, another direction communalism. Then in 1907, after the split of Surat in Congress, split of Surat, split at Surat of Congress, and then the second stage is 1907 to 1914. मतलब हम पहले 1885 से 1907 पर आएंगे, और एक धारा राष्ट्रवाद की, एक संप्रदायवाद की होगी. फिर हमारी दूसरा चरण होगा 1907 से 1914 इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट, और वो एक धारा नेशनलिज्म की, राष्ट्रवाद की होगी, एक संप्रदायवाद की होगी आफ्टर स्प्लिट ऑफ सूरत. लाइकवाइज वी हैव टू मूव टू द थर्ड फेज, the Indian National Movement 1914 to 1919, means कि here we have to observe the impact of the First World War on nationalism and on communalism. यहाँ पर हम प्रथम विश्व युद्ध का प्रभाव राष्ट्रवाद पर भी देखेंगे और संप्रदायवाद पर भी देखेंगे. Then we have to move further, and then we have to talk about the advent of Gandhi, the ideology of Gandhi, you can say the methods of Gandhi comprehensively between 1919 and 1920. मतलब 1919 और 20 के बीच हम गांधी के विचारधारा कार्यक्रम को पहले आपको अच्छे ढंग से समझा देंगे. और एक बात और भी ध्यान रखिए, उसमें मैं प्रीलिम्स का भी क्वेश्चन आपको करवाता रहूंगा और मेंस का क्वेश्चन भी. तो वी हैव टू डील विद द टॉपिक लाइक गांधी. देन नेक्स्ट स्टेज वुड बी द इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट 1920 to 1929, nationalism and communalism. Then from 1929 to 1939, nationalism and communalism. The next stage 1939 to 1945, nationalism and communalism, and then the last 2 years 1945 to 1947, independence and partition. मतलब हम फिर 1920 से 1919 के स्टेज पर पहुंचेंगे. एक धारा राष्ट्रवाद, एक संप्रदायवाद की होगी. दूसरा 1929 से 1939 तक पहुंचेंगे, एक धारा राष्ट्रवाद, दूसरी संप्रदायवाद की होगी. फिर 1939 से 1945 तक पहुंचेंगे, एक राष्ट्रवाद की, एक संप्रदायवाद की होगी. और लास्ट में 2 इयर्स हम 1945 1947 देखेंगे, 45 to 47, उसमें एक स्वतंत्रता और एक विभाजन. तो यू विल बी crystal clear. Third part would be over after that, and then we will move to enter into the fourth part, that is called the post-independence era. So my students, keep one thing in your mind. You have to develop an integrated approach that will make your actually make your whole preparation easy, and it is an alternative way which I have developed in social science. Because in social science, if you are not adopting and you are not going to apply the integrated approach, so then you will never do justice in the social science. अगर आप इंटीग्रेटेड अप्रोच नहीं लेते हो, ओपिनियन आपका डेवलप नहीं करता है, तो क्वेश्चन एग्जैक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन पर नहीं होता है, क्वेश्चन inferential होता है, then you will not do the question. I will give you a lot of example of the questions in UPSC and you will yourself do justice. हाँ Mr. Ankur, is any point? News importance in history means? Bharti, actually whenever I have started class of modern history, that is in Hindi medium, English. हाँ भारती, मैंने अभी एनसीईआरटी जो स्टार्ट किया तो हमने अपने स्टूडेंट्स को, आप लोगों को, आई हैव ऑलरेडी प्रोवाइडेड यू अ लिस्ट ऑफ द एनसीईआरटी टॉपिक्स एंड आई हैव आल्सो गिवन द इंस्ट्रक्शन कि हाउ टू रीड every topic has been divided into subtopics and you have to follow the subtopics. If you are not having that material particularly, so please take this material that is available on the website. Where, Mr. Ankur? App. That is available on app and you can download it, get it downloaded, and I think just follow that NCERT book. You are in the beginning phase, you will start to making notes. Making notes is not going to be useful. Follow me. I myself is providing you the PDF form. I have also given a book of list. Try to follow me and make the basic study for the NCERT books. That's enough. Now, homogeneity is the model of Western. That is, I have not told. In fact, whenever the Western, actually in Western Europe, there was the rise of nationalism and or the rise of nation state there. So the basic emphasis of the European countries and European monarchs were on homogeneity, cultural and linguistic homogeneity, because for them the nation implies homogeneity. For example, you can say you are taking the France as the first modern nation. So France, even today you find that France always preferred homogeneity, not heterogeneity, you know. So that's why you might have in the hijab controversy started in France, you know. If you are a French citizen, you are not supposed to display your religious identity at a public place, at a government place, you know. You are a government employee, so there you have to cover your religious identity. That is not allowed. Neither Christian cross nor Muslim hijab, whatever may be. So in fact the French, they emphasized over homogeneity. But when nationalism traveled to Asia-African countries, the Asia-African countries could not have survived on the basis of the Western model. They have just developed their nation on the basis of one language. And we have, whenever we have formed our nation after independence, you know, in Indian constitution, we have created the place for 14 national languages in schedule 8th, in 8th schedule. Likewise, you can say they have gave emphasis over the single official language. In India, we have taken Hindi as the official language, but simultaneously even the English as the supportive official language. So in this way, we have made a lot of compromises on cultural front. We have given the religious, even our concept of secularism is much different from the Western model. I will discuss with you later. मतलब मैंने आपको कहा, who has asked this question? हर्ष, मैंने आपको यह कहा कि देखिए जो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज थे उनकी जिद थी कि हम अपना जो राष्ट्र है वह एकीकृत बनाए, मतलब उसमें यूनिफॉर्म बनाए, होमोजेनियस बनाए। होमोजेनियस मतलब कि एक रूप बनाए, माने सब एक तरह के कंडक्ट का पालन करे। उन लोगों का तो भौगोलिक आकार, ज्योग्राफिकल शेप छोटा था, तो उनको तो चल गया। अपन लोग अगर ये काम करते तो हमारा नेशन ही नहीं बनता। तो हम लोगों ने अपना तरीका अपनाया, हम लोगों ने नाम दिया यूनिटी इन डाइवर्सिटी, विविधता में एकता। तो उनका मॉडल अलग है, अपना अलग है। तो थोड़ा सा आप लोग हमारे साथ काम करिए। यू पीपल आर रिक्वेस्टेड टू डू, यू कैन से गिव मी द टाइम एंड लेट मी work according to my plan. Once my plan will be finished, all of you will be satisfied and all of you will be comfortable. मैंने सभी लोग, आप लोग संतुष्ट हो गए, लेकिन अलग अलग बिंदु को समझने की कोशिश करोगे तो दिक्कतें होगी। सभी को इंटीग्रेटेड देखिए आप। Sakshi, it is immaterial question. First of thing, let me brief the Great Revolt of 1857. Sakshi, once again, I am asking you people to put a check over yourself. Whenever I am teaching, so far I have not taught you the Great Revolt of 1857. First, let me finish the Great Revolt of 1857. Then there is the, you can say, place for such a question. Otherwise, it is simply a wastage of time. So, Sakshi, I think you are wise enough to understand my hint. You always ask the question from the topic I have finished previously, not from the topic which I am going to finish in future. Yes, definitely. It is nationalism which ended colonialism in India. Nationalism is such a weapon on whose basis you will kill colonialism. So you are obviously clear. Yeah, Harsh. Yes. So let us start now. Or any question? Once again, Ankur, even you are committing the same mistake. I have not taken this topic. Who has asked this question? Siddhant, please, I have not covered the tribal movement. Let me do the work first, and whenever I will just do the work, and even not you people, not me, allowed to do the topic, then how can I progress? Let me start the topic. Once I am finishing the topic, when I actually, if I am just finishing my topic on tribal movement, right, then you are most welcome to ask me the question. But the topic I have not just covered, you have started asking the question from that topic. It's your time is too much valuable. You are wasting your time, please. Here you are informed, because I am following this line, because so that you will not find difficulty. The British colonial rule produced a differential impact on different social groups, who in turn responded differently. When British rule impacted different groups, and for instance, the British rule displaced the old kings and nawabs and exploited the peasants and tribal groups. Thus, many revolts and movements were organized against the imperial structure. On the other hand, its impact on educated middle class Indians was somewhat beneficial. Was different, you can say. Anyway, first of all, you are just observing proto-nationalist movement. Proto-nationalist movement could be subdivided into three categories. The first category is the restorative revolts. Restorative revolts for the fact that when the British rule in course of its expansion, if it established new Rajas and Nawab, so it replaced the old Rajas and Nawabs and Jamindars. So the replaced elements or displaced elements, actually it displaced the old Rajas, Nawabs and Jamindars. So the displaced elements organized the revolt against the British rule. Okay. So they organized the revolts against the British rule, and once they organized the revolt against the British rule, even their people, their subject people and their peasants who were treating them, the kings or the nawabs or landlords, as their maibab, as their master, so they rose in revolt in their favor. मतलब इवन जब जमींदार राजा नवाब ने जब रिवोल्ट किया, तो उनके किसान भी, उनके प्रजा भी उनके साथ खड़ी हो जाती थी. एंड इट इज गोइंग टू द रिवोल्ट वाज गोइंग टू टेक द फॉर्मिडेबल शेप. अब ये एक भयानक आकार ले लेता था. इसी में यू पीपल, बिकॉज my students, a lot of revolts and revolutions are there. Too many facts are there. I have selected some of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just 5. 5 restorative revolts you people have to keep in your eyes. From prelims point of view, you are supposed to increase some data, which I will give you the advice later. But from the mains point of view, the 5 revolts for a reference, it is more than enough. The one is the Sannyasi revolt, 1763 to 1800. Actually, who were sannyasis? They were, you can say, peasants come religious groups. Peasants, or the, you can say, local chiefs. Local chiefs come पीजेंट्स ग्रुप्स, मतलब जिसको हम सन्यासी कहते हैं, वो लोकल चीफ थे, कुछ धार्मिक भी थे और साथ साथ किसान भी थे। तो when you come to know कि when the British rule was established in Bengal, so the British company started to exact the heavy amount of land revenue, extract the heavy amount of land revenue from the peasants. जब कंपनी का शासन स्थापित हुआ तो किसानों से बड़ी मात्रा में वह राजस्व की वसूली करने लगा। So this phenomena led to the impoverishment of peasants in Bengal, and the peasants were quite dissatisfied with their situation. Apart from that, the British also started to control some religious centers, and they tried to put into and intervene into some religious, you can say, pilgrimage centers in Bengal. इसके अलावा ब्रिटिश ने कुछ धार्मिक स्थलों में भी छेड़छाड़ करने की कोशिश की। तो दैट्स व्हाई यू कैन से कि द सन्यासीज वेर ऑर्गेनाइज इनटू द सीक्रेट बैंड्स एंड दे रिवोल्टेड अगेंस्ट द ब्रिटिश। ब्रिटिश ने तो एक तो किसानों का शोषण किया, उनको गरीब बनाया, कुछ धार्मिक स्थलों पर पाबंदी लगाने की कोशिश की, इसलिए जो कुछ पीजेंट्स कम चीफ्स थे वो सन्यासी के रूप में एकत्रित हुए और सरकार के अगेंस्ट में खड़े हो गए। और it was a long stretched revolt, you can say. It continued from 1763 to 1700, यानी वर्षों तक चलते रहे। और वे लोग गुप्त संगठन के रूप में काम करते थे, वेपन्स को कलेक्ट करते थे, हथियारों को, और अचानक से धावा भी बोलते थे। Here you can cite the example of Anand Math of Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. In Anand Math, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee has given a reference to this sannyasi revolt. So Bankim Chandra Chatterjee has just talked about this sannyasi revolt. Just 1 minute. जैसे बंकिम चंद्र चटर्जी का जो सन्यासी रिवोल्ट है, बंकिम चंद्र चटर्जी का जो आनंद मठ है, उसमें सन्यासी रिवोल्ट की चर्चा है। Now the revolt of the Raja Vijayan Gramam. That is the case of South India. Vijayan Gramam, in 1765, the British acquired Northern Sarkars. That is Northern Sarkar you find here. That is in Andhra Pradesh. ये जो विजयन ग्रामम का रिवोल्ट है, वो विजयन ग्राम का रिवोल्ट आंध्र प्रदेश में 1794 में, and the British tried to put the control over the Northern Sarkar, and 1794 restrictions were put on the independence of the ruler of Vijayanagram, and also his troops were disbanded. Consequently, people in this region revolted. मतलब विजयनग्राम के किंग पर उन्होंने राजा पर नियंत्रण स्थापित किया और उनकी जो सेना है उसको भी भंग करने की कोशिश की। तो इन 1794 दे रिवोल्टेड, वे विद्रोह कर दिए। इन थर्ड रिवोल्ट ऑफ दीवान ऑफ त्रावणकोर वेलाटम्पी, so that is the revolt of Travancore. You already find that is in Kerala. So in the British imposed the policy of subsidiary alliance on the ruler of Travancore. Strict restrictions were put on the state. Thus Diwan Velathampi revolted against cruel policy of the British. So it was also a restorative movement, क्योंकि त्रावणकोर का जो दीवान वेलाटम्पी था, जब वहां पर ब्रिटिश ने सब्सिडियरी अलायंस थोपने की कोशिश की और उस पर कई तरह के रेस्ट्रिक्शंस लगाए, तो किंग की ओर से उसके दीवान ने ही रिवोल्ट कर दिया। देन यू फाइंड एग्जांपल ऑफ द रिवोल्ट ऑफ क्वीन चेन्नम्मा ऑफ किट्टूरू इन तमिलनाडु इन 1824। Here you come to know that after death of the ruler of Kitturu in 1824, actually the situation was British refused to accept the adopted son as the successor in the regional states. Thus the widow of deceased king Queen Chennamma revolted against the British. Now my students, these are the factual informations. Here I am having the limited rule and you people have to simply recall 4 to 5 names, nothing else. Dates and some important 4 to 5. I am not giving too much burden on you people. You have to you are simply expected to recall 4 to 5 names. तो अब ये 4-5 नाम आपको याद रखना है, क्योंकि मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि कई बार राइटिंग में हो सकता है रेफरेंस देना पड़े 1-2 किंग्स का, तो आपको दे देना होगा। तो इसी में आपको मैंने बताया किट्टूर चेन्नम्मा है, तमिलनाडु का है, इसका पति मर चुकी है और इसको सक्सेसर, इसको उत्तराधिकारी चुनने में गवर्नमेंट कठिनाई उत्पन्न कर रही, तो इसने रिवोल्ट कर दिया 1824 में। एंड देन कम्स मैसूर रिवोल्ट। आफ्टर टीपू सुल्तान वाज किल्ड इन द बैटलफील्ड, a smaller portion of the Mysore was given to Krishnaraj III. The policy of subsidiary alliance was imposed. The king was supposed to give a large amount to the British, thus increase the burden of land revenue on the peasants. Consequently, people revolted. Actually, the Satara, actually, when Tipu Sultan was, you can say, defeated and killed on the fort of Srirangpattam, then British annexed the whole of the region of Tipu Sultan. But a region was, a part of it was carved out as a separate state, and the successor from the old ODR dynasty I have mentioned you earlier, that is, in Mysore. So the successor of ODR dynasty, that was Krishnaraj III, he was offered this state, a part of a chunk of it, and he was made the ruler. But the British exacted too much and extracted too much amount from him and placed on him too much burden. So he was suffocated and he started to extract the revenue from the people. So people revolted. मतलब उसके ऊपर क्या हुआ कि बहुत ज़्यादा बर्डन हो गया, और बहुत ज़्यादा बर्डन किंग कृष्णराज पर हुआ, तो वो अपने लोगों से कुछ पैसे वसूलने की ज़्यादा कोशिश की पीजेंट से, तो पीजेंट ने रिवोल्ट कर दिया. तो यही है सबका. इसमें बस इंसिडेंट्स को लेके बहुत टेंशन मत लो, केवल 4-5 नाम और किंग्स का नाम याद रखो. No, Kittur should be Tamil Nadu at that time. जिस समय इस इंसिडेंट हैज टेकन प्लेस, तो आई थिंक दैट शुड बी इन तमिलनाडु. Kittur at the time when Chennamma revolted. Maybe I will once inquire, but so far I am recalling that is true. That should be in, I think, Tamil Nadu, and that is Mysore. And one part is restorative revolts you find. Then you find tribal revolts and resistance. So tribal revolts and resistance, you have to find it out. As British colonial expansion gradually extended, my students, here I have to make you familiar with the tribal revolts. These are the simply factual information for you that will not create a lot of problems for you people. Actually, British Empire was in search of the larger quantity of resources. It was just thirsty for the resources, you can say. So as it was thirsty for the resources, the British Empire, so you will just come to know, it expanded to the tribal region as well in order to collect the extra resources from the tribal region, in the forest region, in the, you can say, hilly region. Actually, tribal people were just the part and parcel of the Indian life, but they were following different sorts of customs and traditions, and they remained secluded from the mainstream life of the people from a long time. मतलब जो जनजातीय लोग हैं वो भी भारतीय जीवन के हिस्सा थे, लेकिन एक लंबे समय तक वो अपना अलग जीवन गुजार चुके थे. मतलब they had spent, you can say, they had spent, you can say, a substantial part of their life as the secluded life. So they were not habituated to be intervened into their life by outside force. मतलब वो एक लंबे समय तक चूंकि सेक्लूडेड लाइफ जी चुके थे, तो कोई उनके जीवन में दखलंदाजी करे उनको पसंद नहीं था. एंड माय स्टूडेंट्स, हियर आई एम इन्फॉर्मिंग यू, व्हेन द ब्रिटिश एक्सपेंडेड टू द ट्राइबल रीजन्स, सो along with the British, some exploitative machinery also expanded, and you can say exploitative machinery also extended to the tribal regions. What was the exploitative machinery? There were the trinity of exploiters. Trinity of exploiters were zamindars or landlords, money lenders, and contractors. Actually, here I will discuss with you in case of Santhals. Santhals could develop their own land through, you can say, cutting a part of the mountains or hills. So after making erosion of mountains and hills, they might have developed their own land, and by dint of their own labor. But British imposed over them a landlord and then compelled the peasants to give tax to the landlords. So the Santhal people could not understand who is the landlord there. Why are they intervening in our affairs? Because we are independent. And second one thing was ki one of my friends have just asked me, in fact, among tribal people, a different type of property relationship was prevailing. And this property relationship was known as Khundkatti right. There is the term, and this term is Khundkatti right. You might have in my material. Khundkatti rights. What is Khundkatti right? That was the concept of collective ownership. The concept of collective ownership that was called Khundkatti rights. मतलब मैं आपको बताना चाहता, जो अभी किसी स्टूडेंट ने पूछा है कि खुंदकट्टी अधिकार क्या होता था, तो बेसिकली जनजातीय लोगों में एक सामुदायिक संपत्ति की अवधारणा प्रचलित थी, कलेक्टिव प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स प्रचलित था, और उन लोगों ने अपने प्रयास से लैंड को डेवलप किया था। लेकिन अब देखिए, अब लैंड बेसिकली you are just going to observe the tribal people, will find that there were different categories among the tribal people. Some were the food gatherers and collectors, means ki hunters and food gatherers. This was the one occupation of tribal people. Some tribals were also agriculturists or cultivators. They developed as a cultivators. तो संथास वैसे ही कल्टिवेटर्स थे। तो कुछ ऐसे ट्राइबल्स थे जिन्होंने अपने लैंड को अपने प्रयास से डेवलप किया, और ब्रिटिश ने उनके ऊपर एक जमींदार को थोप दिया और कहा कि रेस्पेक्ट हिम बिकॉज ये लैंड का ऑनर है। तो ट्राइबल पीपल को समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि भाई हम तो अपने पूर्वजों के समय से कलेक्टिवली लैंड को यूज करते आ रहे हैं, फ्रॉम वेयर दिस ऑनर अपीयर्ड, बिकॉज इन व्हाट वे ही इज एन ऑनर। इन दिस वे माय स्टूडेंट्स, यू विल कम टू नो द ट्राइबल्स वर डिस्टर्ब्ड एट दिस फिनोमेना। एंड द सेकेंड वन पार्ट वॉज money lenders were just lending them the money and they were charging heavy interest, उनसे बहुत ज़्यादा ब्याज लेते थे। And third one thing you can say, the British used to auction the forest to contractors, and then contractors restricted the tribal people to go into the forest and you can say to use the forest wood for their own purpose, because contractors were making the claim of their, you can say, ownership on the trees on the basis that we have purchased it. तो ट्राइबल लोगों को लगता था कि भाई पूर्वजों के समय से हम पूरे जंगल को यूज करते आ रहे हैं, अभी कॉन्ट्रैक्टर बोल रहे हैं कि हम मालिक हैं, कैसे? In this way that created a lot of problem. Apart from that, you might have heard about in geography zooming. Zooming means that is shifting cultivation. So shifting cultivation was prevailing in the tribal forest land. So tribal people were just doing the zooming or the shifting cultivation. It was going to damage the forest and the wood. So government was putting a check over the zooming in forest. So that was disturbing to the tribals, you know. And likewise, you can say the tribals were using opium. They were producing opium for their self consumption. अब वो ओपियम अपने सेल्फ कंजम्पशन के लिए करते थे, गवर्नमेंट ने उसको रेस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया, कहा कि नहीं, ये ओपियम आपको प्रोडक्शन करने का राइट नहीं है। सो दैट वाज आल्सो डिस्टर्बिंग टू द ट्राइबल्स कि भाई हम अपने लिए यूज करते हैं, व्हाट प्रॉब्लम यू आर हैविंग। एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लिस्ट, यू कैन से कि द ट्राइबल पीपल वी आर जस्ट यूजिंग, यू नो, they were just making the country wine for their own consumption, but the government imposed the excise duty on every tribal family in Chota Nagpur, and that was 4 आना per house. माने 4 आने के हिसाब से सरकार ने प्रत्येक घर के ऊपर एक एक्साइज ड्यूटी लगा दी कि भाई तुम लोग कंट्री वाइन बनाते हो, क्यों बनाते हो, क्यों पीते हो। So now it was beyond comprehension of the tribal people. We are using the country wine, and what problem the sahib log are having against my use of wine. मतलब हम अपना वाइन पीते हैं तो इसमें साहब लोगों को क्या परेशानी है। In this way you can see it created a lot of problems. My students, here you are suggested not to go through too many tribal movements. But even if you are going to mention about the 2 to 3, that is the coal uprising in Chota Nagpur region in 1831, and here we have to simply keep the name of Buddho Bhagat. Buddho Bhagat became active, and later you can say in 1831 this coal uprising took place, so you have to go through it. It is simply the factual information, nothing else. Then you are coming to Santhal rebellion. Santhal rebellion was the most important rebellion so far. Recently I can say Hul Hul, there is a book which has been published. Its name is Hul Hul, Santhal rebellion, recently this year, and it has given a specific focus over the Santhal rebellion again alone, because Santhals, you can say 60,000 Santhals gathered against the government. You can say actually there is a region that is called Daman-e-Koh. This is the name of the region. And Santhal, although they were split to the different regions, but the one important region was between Bhagalpur and Rajmahal. Means ki in Bihar, Bhagalpur and Rajmahal now I think is lying in Jharkhand. So between this region, you know, the Santhal were just living, and they developed the agriculture land by their own efforts, but the government imposed a landlord over them, so they were upset, and even money lenders started to exploit them. So they revolted under the leader Sidhu and Kanhu. And at Bhagni Dihi they gathered. मतलब सिद्धू कान्हू उनके लीडर थे, और उन पर रेस्ट्रिक्शन उनके एग्रीकल्चर पर लगाया गया. लैंडलॉर्ड ने उनके ऑनरशिप का दावा किया तो रिवोल्ट कर दिया, और 60,000 संथाल्स गैदर्ड. एंड do you know, in Bengal army 10,000 soldiers were deployed for suppression of the Santhal rebellion, and it was almost an extermination of Santhals, because 10,000 Santhals were killed in the whole operation. 10,000 Santhal उस ऑपरेशन में मारे गए थे. Then Rampa rebellion 1879. Later you can say it happened in 1879, Forest Act, against the Forest Act. But later in the same region, in Alluri Sitaram Raju, you might have heard RRR movie, that is very famous. So it is associated with Rampa rebellion. And then you can say Munda or Ulugan. Munda or Ulugan, this is supposed to be one of the most important tribal revolts so far in India, because Birsa Munda became the living symbol of resistance against the British rule. He was also a cultivator, and there was an encroachment on his land by Jamindars, and he was supposed to give excessive tax. So he was grieved, and firstly, with the support of some Christian missionaries, he knocked at the door of the court and just sought the justice from the government first. But the justice was not meted to him, so he finally revolted in 1898-99. मतलब वो पहले किसान था मुंडा, लेकिन बिरसा मुंडा, लेकिन अब मुंडाओं की जो खेती है उसमें हस्तक्षेप जमींदारों के द्वारा किया गया, उनसे बहुत ज़्यादा राजस्व मांगा गया. पहले उन्होंने कोर्ट का दरवाजा खटखटाया, फिर जस्टिस नहीं मिला तो रिवोल्ट कर दिया. एंड बिरसा मुंडा डिक्लेयर्ड हिमसेल्फ टू बी द यंगर ब्रदर ऑफ लॉर्ड विष्णु. उसने अपने आप को विष्णु का छोटा भाई घोषित कर दिया. एंड यू विल बी सरप्राइज्ड टू नो दैट he attacked on the Sahibs, Katung Baba Katung, Sahib Katung, Rari Katung, but later मतलब with a slogan, मतलब सबको काट के फेंक दो साहब लोगों को. और finally he was arrested and he was put into jail just in 2 years due to cholera. He died in the jail itself, but he became the living symbol of the resistance of the British rule. In case of Santhal revolt and Munda revolt, you will find that finally the government was compelled to give some relief to Santhals and Munda. In case of Santhals, you will find there was a question in UPSC prelims also. A separate Pargana, Santhal Pargana, was created in order to, you can say, redressal of the grievances of the Santhals. And the second one was, in Santhal Pargana, rules were imposed. There could not have been the transfer of land from tribal to non-tribal. So there was the safety to the land to the tribal. मतलब एक तो संथाल परगना बनाया गया, और यह भी नियम बनाए गए कि संथाल क्षेत्र में जो जनजाति है उसे गैर जनजाति में भूमि का हस्तांतरण नहीं हो सकता. 2018 के क्वेश्चन में था. तो दिस वाज अबाउट द Likewise, after Munda Revolt, Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act. Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act was enacted in 1908 in order to give redressal to the grievances of the Mundas, and in which the Munda peasants were given protection on their land. तो छोटा नागपुर जो रेतवारी है कानून, उसको पारित किया गया. तो ये सब कुछ एक फैक्ट्स है माय स्टूडेंट्स. यू पीपल आर सपोज टू ऑब्जर्व द फैक्ट. अब now you are moving to the peasant movement. There are the three movements. Actually, here you can say conceptually you are observing. So it is 4 to 5 movements I have selected, because in mains examination you are simply supposed to give a reference before the 1857. So far as the question of peasant movement is concerned, so you people are well aware of the fact that actually you have already covered the topic like colonialism. So you are well aware of the fact that colonialism created the heavy pressure on the different classes of India. Heavy pressure on different classes of India, and particularly peasants were the most sufferers. It is said that the control of the British rule on India, or control of the British rule on India, meant the control of the countryside or control of on the village, because the village was the main source of resources for the British Empire, which was just like a leviathan, or you can say a dragon. तो ब्रिटिश साम्राज्य को जितना संसाधन चाहिए था वो गांव से ही खींचते थे. अब यू कैन से they were taking 52% land revenue was coming from the countryside. The raw materials for the British industries were coming from the countryside, from cotton to indigo, you know. Apart from that, the British industrial policy already devastated the village handicrafts. So there was the excessive burden of peasantry on the land. तो क्या है कि 52% उनका राजस्व चाहिए गांव से, कच्चे माल चाहिए उद्योगों के लिए, इंडस्ट्री के लिए गांव से, नील से लेके कपास. उसके अलावा जो लैंड रेवेन्यू है और भी बहुत तरह की सुविधाएं उनको गांव से प्राप्त होनी है. तो peasants felt the burden, and village handicrafts declined. There was the frequent and the incidence of famine, growing poverty, unemployment. So all are going to create the situation of the peasant revolt, rural indebtedness. So here I have mentioned about, actually whenever there is the question of the causes of peasant movements, we have not to perturbed about the causes, because you will simply go into the topic of colonialism. You will find a lot of things, what were the disturbing factors for the peasants in India. अगर आप सिर्फ उपनिवेशवाद के टॉपिक की तरफ पीछे मुड़ोगे तो देखोगे बहुत सारे ऐसे मुद्दे आएंगे जो पीजेंट्स के लिए बड़े पीड़ादायक थे. तो यू विल टॉक अबाउट द 5 issues. So far, my students, if you, now I am going through the topic. So suppose I am not going through line to line. So if any line you find difficulty, so you can ask me the question now. I have simply just, you can say, suggested you that so far as I am not going through the topic, so don't ask the question in advance. But the topic I have covered or I am covering, you can ask me the question. No problem. Ankur, all are okay? हाँ बोलो. Imperial structure is the exploitative structure, that is the colonial structure, in which you find the British is the paramount power, and British was taking resources from India in various forms. So the whole structure is known as the imperial structure. Actually, British used to export opium to China. British preferred to export opium to China, and British itself, the British themselves tried to develop a monopoly over the opium trade. So that's why the whole production of opium was placed under the government control right from the time of Warren Hastings. Right from the time of Warren Hastings, all sorts of opium production was placed under the government control. My students, you are going through geography, so later you will just come to know about the jhum cultivation. In tribal, you can say in the tribal region, you can say jhuming was a sort of cultivation. Actually, this was the very basic form of agriculture. They used to lit the fire in forest. Some forest, the wood was just, you can say, cleared due to fire. So through fire, the forest was cleared, and they just doing the cultivation. And after they took the 2 to 3 crops, so after that, the land loses its fertility. So it was difficult for them to grow the crops further. So they leave this land fallow and they moved to other regions, and once again they lit the fire and started to burn the forest. So that is the whole system was known as झूमिंग और झूम कल्टीवेशन. मतलब क्या करते थे कि पहले एक क्षेत्र में जाते थे, जंगलों को जलाते थे, साफ कर देते थे, वहां पर खेती करते थे, एग्रीकल्चर. तो 2-3 फसलों के बाद उसकी जो भूमि की उर्वरता है, जो फर्टिलिटी है, वो कमजोर पड़ जाती थी. तो फिर उसको छोड़ के फिर दूसरी जगह फॉरेस्ट को जलाकर और फिर वहां एग्रीकल्चर शुरू कर देते थे. इसी को झूमिंग बोलते थे. आई थिंक यू पीपल आर क्लियर. हाँ, they were peasants, but actually some of them were associated with the religious, actually the religious activities as well. And apart from persecuting peasants, the government used to have control over some pilgrimage centers and religious centers as well. So that's why they revolted, and they were in guise of sannyasi. They were peasants, but they were basically, you can say, and rural chiefs, but they were associated with religion, so they were known as sannyasi. Abhishek, what type of question you are asking? The difference between landlords and money lenders. One is the master of land, another is just lending money and taking interest. So by occupation, landlord is different. He was the landholder. Money lenders was just lenders who were lending money and taking interest. So that is the difference between, Abhishek. Toddy बोलते हैं, that is alcoholic drink in the countryside. Who has asked this question? Ayush. Ayush, toddy, I don't know from which region you are, but in toddy, Bihar, Kerala, etc., in many other regions you will find the poor people were just taking, this is the cheap alcohol, and it is naturally taken from a tree, toddy tree, and it is just like, you can say, alcoholic juice which was taken from the tree, and it was used by the people as intoxicants. So it was called toddy. उसको हिंदी में ताड़ी बोलते हैं. तो देन क्वेश्चन इज नॉट क्लियर. तो ऐसे क्वेश्चन को मत करो जो इनकम्प्लीट हो. इट्स सिंपली द वेस्टेज ऑफ टाइम. Apart from that, anything? Then, my students, at the some of the important peasant revolts and movements, sannyasi and fakir, because fakir was for the Muslims, sannyasi is for Hindus. Both are the religious personages, and both belong to the peasant discontentment, and both were reflecting the grievances of the peasants as well. But the difference was that sannyasi was for the Hindus and fakirs for the Muslims. सन्यासी और फकीर एक हिंदू का असंतोष व्यक्त करते हैं, एक मुसलमानों का, लेकिन हैं वो दोनों धार्मिक ही. एंड पागलपंथी रिवोल्ट इन फिरोजपुर 1824. इवन पागलपंथी रिवोल्ट वाज ए पीजेंट रिवोल्ट. करमशाह एंड इवन पागलपंथी रिवोल्ट वाज ए पीजेंट रिवोल्ट. करमशाह एंड टीपू, these were the leaders, but they were basically following a sect. They were following a sect, and the sect was, in this sect you can say the followers preferred to call themselves as Pagal. This was the name. So that's why you can say it was known as the Pagalpanthi, Karamshah and Tipu. This was actually, it appears to be a religious resistance, but basically it was a peasant, it was reflection of the peasant discontent. Then Faraji movement that started in Faridpur district in Bengal, and that continued in 1838 to 1851. And here you can say Haji Saritullah or Dadu Mian. It also appears to be a religious movement, but in covertly it was a reflection of peasant discontentment. यह भी एक धार्मिक आंदोलन लगता है, लेकिन यह भी peasant discontentment को दर्शाता है. Then Mopla revolt. What is Mopla? Actually, you are supposed to observe the Malabar coast. Are you observing? तो जो मालाबार तट है उस पर एक्चुअली बेसिकली मोपला वेयर द पीजेंट्स, माने मालाबार तट पर मोपला किसान थे. Earlier they were the Arabian merchants, they were associated with trade, but later they got settled in the Malabar coast and they came to be known as Mopla. So basically they were doing cultivation, they were the smaller peasants. And in the regions you can say the landlords were called the Jainis. So actually the unfortunate condition was that कि Moplas belonged to the Muslim community and landlords to Hindu one. They were Hindus, Jainmi. So actually what happened, when there was the rule of Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, so Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan just you can say expelled the Jainmi landlords from this Malabar region. But when the Tipu Sultan was killed in the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, so after that the British once again restored the old Jainmis in Malabar coast. So the peasants were not, you can say, not comfortable with landlords now, because for a long time they remained there without landlords. Actually हैदर अली और टीपू सुल्तान ने जैनमी जमींदारों को वहां से भगा दिया था और ब्रिटिश ने दोबारा जैनमी को जो मालाबार तट पर इस्टेब्लिश कर दिया. इस बात को जो किसान है वो नापसंद करते थे, क्योंकि पीजेंट्स को बहुत समय तक लैंडलॉर्ड्स के बिना रहने की आदत हो गई थी. तो दैट्स व्हाई दे यूज्ड टू ऑर्गेनाइज the series of revolts against the landlords and government. Basically landlords, you can say, they attacked landlords, and between 1836 to 1854 at least there are 22 recorded revolts. But my students, here I have to inform you these are the recorded revolts, you know. And unfortunate condition was that it was the reflection of agrarian grievances. But as the peasants were Muslims and landlords were Hindus, so my students, the unfortunate condition was that it was given a religious garb and religious color, and it took a communal form easily. मतलब इसने एक सांप्रदायिक रंग ले लिया, क्योंकि बदकिस्मती यह थी कि जमींदार हिंदू थे और जो मेजोरिटी का किसान थे मुसलमान थे, इसलिए उसका रिलीजियस. अब इंडिगो रिवोल्ट 1859 to 60. Here my students, I have to inform you, Indigo revolt is supposed to be the first modern type of revolt, you know, first modern type of Indigo movement. Indigo movement, that should be movement. It is supposed to be. You may be a bit curious, what is the difference between revolt movement and revolution? I am making you clear. आपको जिज्ञासा होगी विद्रोह, आंदोलन और क्रांति में क्या अंतर है. तो revolt means कि it was just a sudden outburst. Movement means कि it progress gradually and systematically. That is movement. And revolution means if there is support of some specific ideology and program, if it is based on the specific ideology and program, or it demands the radical change, in that case it is a revolution. मतलब कि विद्रोह में है कि अचानक विस्फोट हो जाए, मूवमेंट में थोड़ा रुक कर लंबे समय तक चले, मतलब आंदोलन में, और क्रांति में है उसके पीछे एक विशिष्ट विचारधारा हो, आइडियोलॉजी और प्रोग्राम हो, या फिर जो चेंज हो रहा हो बहुत तेजी से हो रहा हो, तो क्रांति कहलाती. दिस इज द डिफरेंस अमंग द. तो हियर यू कैन से इट इज कॉल्ड इंडिगो मूवमेंट. अब इट इज अ पीजेंट मूवमेंट. अब इट स्टार्टेड इन बंगाल इन द नदिया डिस्ट्रिक्ट. इन नदिया डिस्ट्रिक्ट व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम? So there you will find in Bengal there were a lot of British landlords, and the British landlords there imposed the specific indigo agriculture in the form of tinkatia. In form of tinkatia means the peasants were supposed to grow the indigo compulsorily in 3 कट्ठाज of 1 बीघा. मतलब सभी किसानों को अपने प्रत्येक बीघा में 3 कट्ठा में आवश्यक रूप में नील की खेती करनी पड़ती थी. And indigo was purchased by the British landlords at the cost decided by them. The cost of the indigo was decided by the British landlords themselves. The British landlords used to give the very tiny amount to the peasants. The peasants were dissatisfied with the indigo agriculture, you know. उन्हें उनको बहुत कम पैसा लैंडलॉर्ड देते थे. And landlord has consciously given advance money to the peasants so that the peasants had to work as the bonded labor. Peasants were not given the right to refuse for doing the cultivation of indigo. And if they were doing that, so then the landlords used to adopt the extrajudicial methods. And extrajudicial methods where they were using their own goons, मतलब अपने गुंडों को उनके पीछे छोड़ देते थे. अगर कोई पीजेंट्स ये बोलता था कि हम नहीं खेती करेंगे तो उनको बहुत पीटते थे, उनके एनिमल्स को जब्त कर लेते थे और कई तरह से उनको प्रताड़ित करते थे. तो पीजेंट्स वर नॉट हैविंग द करेज टू, you can say, protest against and to make a protest against the landlords. But a time came in 1859, the peasants of the Govindpur district, Govindpur village in Nadia district, they rose in revolt. They organized themselves into a band and attacked on the goons of the landlords. Or ultimately, you can say, once the revolt started in Govindpur, it just spread like the forest fire and it caught up the different districts of Bengal. So there was the wide extent spread of the peasant movement in almost all the districts. सारे district में peasant movement फैल गया और अंत में you can say a very unique thing you will find in this movement, what you know as the Indigo Revolt, because here you find actually there was the confederation between the Bengal intellectuals. Here you will find the editor of the Amrit Bazar Patrika, Harishchand Mukherjee. He gave support. You might have heard about Neel Darpan, a novel which was written by a very contemporary scholar, you know, Shishir Kumar Ghosh. They also gave support. And then the intellectuals of Bengal started to send the lawyers to defend their cause in the court in support of the peasants. So the government was now alarmed. Government was alarmed if there could be any bond between the peasants and the intellectuals of India, so that would be detrimental to the British rule in the long run. So for that fear, the government intervened into the matter and then compelled the landlords of Bengal to abolish this so-called Tinkatia for the production of indigo. So production of indigo was banned in Bengal after that. So it was 100% success for the peasants of Bengal. मतलब एक्चुअली जब क्या हुआ कि वहाँ पर जब बंगाल का इंटेलेक्चुअल्स और पीजेंट्स के बीच जब गठबंधन बनने लगा तो सरकार डर गई, अगर गठबंधन बन जाएगा तो हमारे लिए खतरा हो जाएगा. तो सरकार ने उसको एक तरह से राजी, मतलब बेसिकली लैंडलॉर्ड्स को कंपेल किया कि आप अपने राइट्स को छोड़ दीजिए, तो तिनकठिया को बैन. Yes, 100%. Yes, Hemendra, 100%. Even without India could have been democracy. Rampa is, you find that in Andhra Pradesh, the region is Rampa, you might have heard about. And there was a tribal people that was called Rampa region. So here, just 1 minute. Here you come to this revolt was organized for the first time under leadership of Raju Rampa. Actually, Sitaram Raju came very late. But in 1879, the initial revolt was Raju Rampa. Rampa was a tribe in the Rampa hill region of Godavari district in Andhra Pradesh. Even the name of the hill was Rampa, even the name of the tribe was Rampa. District of Andhra Pradesh. It was a reaction against the exploitation of money lenders and against the Forest Act. Forest Act means against the, in Forest Act, the British earned the right of selling forest to contractors. So here you can say the tribals were having a point of objection, which had the provisions to restrict jhum cultivation. Jhum cultivation, I have just already told you, and to increase grazing tax. Grazing tax means that they were just carrying their animals for grazing. So contractors were actually putting a control over them, and the tribals were, government used to charge the grazing tax from the tribals. So the rebels labeled themselves as the army of the Lord Ram. रामदंडू की मतलब राम की सेना, मतलब उसने अपने को कहा, जो रंपा के लोग थे उन्होंने कहा कि हम राम की सेना हैं. However, the British government suppressed this revolt in 1880. British government just finally, you can say, 1880, this revolt was suppressed, but this revolt resumed again under the leadership of Alluri Sitaram Raju in 1922 and continued till 1924. Actually, the revolt of Alluri Sitaram Raju just occurred side by side the Gandhian movement of non-cooperation. Presently, you can say RR movie has been, just you can say, a Golden Globe, even you can say, for that it has been nominated, and it created a flutter among intellectual flutter among the, you can say, intellectuals of India, you can say. So this is the Rampa rebellion. ये तो सब देखो, सारे जो पीजेंट या ट्राइबल रिवोल्ट हुए हैं उसके कुछ कुछ अपने अपने कारण हैं, बस एक दो बार देख लेना. दीज आर द इंफॉर्मेशन बेस्ड, सो there are certain common points you have to keep in your mind, but integrated you have to look at all are the proto-nationalist movement. Tinkathia means ki the growing of indigo in every 3 kattha of 1 bigha. In 1 bigha there are the 20 katthas, and tin kattha means मतलब 3 कट्ठा आउट ऑफ 20. मतलब आपके पास अगर 20 कट्ठा जमीन 1 बीघा है, उसमें 3 कट्ठा आपको कंपल्सरीली इंडिगो का प्रोडक्शन करना है. दैट इज कॉल्ड 3 कट्ठिया. अब लास्ट हेयर यू कैन से इन द peasant movement Pabna revolt of Bengal in 1873. Actually here you will find that the peasants were organized because in Bengal Tenancy Act in 1859 there was a restriction over zamindars that they could not enhance the rate of land revenue on peasants, you can see in permanent settlement area, up to a certain point. But the landlords contravening the rules, they enhanced the rate of land revenue time and again. So it was offending to the peasants, and then the peasants organized the revolt in you can say Pabna, and even 2 Hindu leaders, although the most of the peasants were Muslims and landlords were Hindus, it might have taken a communal color, but fortunately some Hindu leaders were also active in this peasant movement. For example, Shambhupal was the Hindu leader, so that's why it could not take the communal color. And one important thing was the Pabna movement was, or Pabna revolt of Bengal was not against the government, it was against the landlords, because the peasants of Pabna made a slogan, we are the subject people of Maharani Victoria and you will prefer to be subject people of her alone. मतलब हम महारानी विक्टोरिया के रैयत हैं और उन्हीं के रैयत होकर रहना चाहेंगे. In this way you can say that the Pabna movement, so that was a peasant movement. So my students, for your sake of convenience, I have given you certain informations about certain movements and revolts. This is a factual, this is information based topic. I am having here the limited road, and you people have to go twice and thrice, so you will be clear. These are the proto-nationalist movement. अब here I have to make you clear कि why should it be called proto-nationalistic? Because this movement was not having any clear-cut program, not any clear-cut ideology. Actually, most of the movements or revolts were targeted against the immediate oppressors. Immediate oppressors मतलब अधिकांश जो आंदोलन थे वो जो तात्कालिक शोषक थे उन्हीं को इमीडिएट ऑपरेसर्स बोलते हैं. तो तात्कालिक शोषक के अगेंस्ट में थे. एंड इट जस्ट यू कैन से रोज एज ए स्टॉर्म इन ए टी कप. मतलब ये एक तरह से प्याली में तूफान की तरह उठते थे. वंस द ग्रीवांसेस आर रिड्रेस्ड दे वंस अगेन डिक्लाइन, और दे यू कैन से वंस अगेन दे सबसाइडेड. मतलब इनका कोई निश्चित प्रोग्राम नहीं था. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द रिवोल्ट्स वेर हैविंग द रीजनल बेस and they were guided by the immediate objective. They were not having any clear-cut program or any long-term objective. So that's why they were called proto-nationalistic. It is just an immediate reaction against the exploitation. So you have to wait for the nationalistic movement in future to come, when there would be the support of modern ideology and clear-cut program. So that's why it was called proto-nationalist. In tribals, you can cite Santhal revolt, and in peasant movement, most important in 19th century is Indigo movement of Bengal. Rudra, here my answer is, among the revolts, you can give more priority to and better priority to Santhal revolt in among the tribal revolts, and Indigo movement in, Indigo movement is the important one. In place of proto-nationalist Bhavna, that's why I have given 3 different titles, you can see. The 3 different titles was I have given a title like the First War of Independence. That is a better word. Today, due to the lack of time, because 1.5 hours is, I think, a bit limited, so sometime I am helpless. Today, I have just come with the plan of covering a part of at least the Great Revolt of 1857, but I didn't get success today. But tomorrow I will deal with this topic, and even you people have to go through my study material. बहुत मेरा स्टडी मटेरियल बहुत ही प्रिसाइज मैंने बनाया है, और आपको मेंस में यही पूरा काम आ जाएगा. Pabna is the region. It is the name of the region, Pabna revolt. Region. What is the question? I don't. Once again, please, I am not clear about the question. Who? Vishal, your question is not clear. And why are you asking me the question on the Indian National Congress? Just wait and see. Whenever I will cover the topic Indian National Congress, then it is wise for you to ask the question from Indian National Congress. Presently, just limit yourself. I have covered the topic, and tomorrow I will do the Great Revolt of 1857. You people are supposed to go through the study material. That is, your study material is apt and very remarkable, and that is full of analysis, and better to go through it, and always try to take the things in the integrated way. For example, just one. This diagram is always useful for you. So here you have to take it. So today, my student, due to the dearth of time, I have to stop here. I am sorry for the fact that I could not move towards the Great Revolt of 1857, but tomorrow I will do. Thank you very much. I will see you.